Welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. My name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. Our interviews are mainly recorded to be transcribed, but every now and again we release the audio in a series we call Post-Burnout.com interviews. If you enjoy what we do, be sure to subscribe. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, we speak with Barry Dolan, the frontman for the Scottish alternative act Gallus. Barry talks about transitioning from an actor into the lead singer of a band, having never done so before, how singing in the band compares to acting on stage, their debut album We Don't Like the People We've Become, signing with Marshall Records, opening for the likes of Biffy Clyro, playing South by Southwest in Texas, singing with his accent, how Brexit has affected the band performing in Europe, and more. Yeah, so the first thing I just want to talk about is actually how you got involved with Gallus. So my understanding is that you had no prior stage experience in a band before, no?
Yeah, no, that's I'd done so I went to college to study acting, and I'd done school shows. That was probably the closest experience to singing a note I ever had. But I was I was best friends with Eamon, who's the guitarist in the band, and he came to see one of my plays I done in college, and just thought, I'm starting a punk band. Do you think you could shout for a bit and see what happens? And that's how it kind of started. So I've been slowly learning how to pretend to be a good singer for about 6 years now, and I think people are now starting
to buy it.
On it.
Were you listening to kind of punk yourself at that time? What sort of music would you have been listening
to? Always had been in the back of my mind sort of heavier music, but always loved the usual ones, the Strokes, Green Day. I loved the Fratellis. They were probably one of my favourite bands at that point. Used to love the Divine Comedy as well.
Right.
And when I actually started when thinking about writing lyrics and singing, I took a lot of stuff from the streets, and just I think the streets and Divine Comedy, the lyrics in those songs are probably more akin to the lyrics that I wanted to write at that time. So I took a lot of inspiration from them as well.
Yeah. So, what do you think that kind of your musical influences added to the band then? Because my understanding was that the kind of the band as it started. I mean, I think a lot of the other guys had their backgrounds in playing in metal bands at school and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, sort of. Yeah. Well, Eamon was learned how to play through metal and stuff, and I think it might have been a bit heavier for Gianluca as well. Eamon and Paul are cousins. Paul's our drummer, and they were so they've been playing together for 10 years previous, just being family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the tunes you listen to and the tunes you learn from, and the music you learn from will probably be a bit different. But we're still trying to figure out, to be fair, what type of band we are.
Yeah.
I always find we do have 5 years have do kind of different music tastes. So writing a song that five people like and don't listen to the same music can be a bit tough.
Yeah.
So it makes our tunes a bit different every time.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I think when you look at your new album, We Don't Like the People We Become, it's I think you really do see a huge kind of unique jump from where you guys were when you were say recording Nice or something like that, or Split.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really become a very unique sound and a very distinctive sound. Nice. Do you think that's just a kind of combination of just a versatile taste in music kind of coming together? Because I think when you listen to it, you hear post-punk, you hear a lot of 2000s indie in there. It's just a very unique structure, and I think it's really, I think it's really great.
So thank you very much. Someone reviewed the album, said that it's riddled with ADHD, which I'm just going with, man. I thought that was the more perfect description of it, because we're all fucking riddled with ADHD. Who's not? Fucking yeah. Thanks, man. I would. I think it's hard for us to like find one thing, because like we are quite chaotic in a way, and like it's sort of like that sort of like chaos that we bring to like live shows can't really be like knuckled down to one. So we'll just like take influences from other things and just like shake it up in a wee cocktail and see what happens.
When it came to actually starting to sing live then in the band, how did you find that? Like when you started doing shows, like actually having to get up there and sing?
Yeah, well, I preferred like performing live when I was doing acting anyway. Performing a gig and performing a play, like the sort of like the way you work, an audience is probably the only similarities they share, but it's a massive similarity. So I already sort of had an understanding of that. It was just a completely different fucking art form that was a bit jading. But I think it probably just did start the same way other bands started, because in my experience, bands are shit for like the first fucking year of their life, especially if it's like a musician's first band. So we were just probably terrible for a bit longer than other bands, because we were trying to fit me in somehow.
Then again, I mean, you guys started recording pretty early. I mean, I think you formed it in 2017, right? And then Nice was already out by 2018. So,
yeah.
Did you feel like, okay, we should probably just get recording? Did you feel confident and started doing that?
I think our drummer Paul just started. I think we started playing like a month and a half into us like playing music, and then we started just like he lit a fire under our asses and started like booking us for gigs, even though we had like 2 tunes. But it was the same with recording as well. Like we had one song finished, he's like, "Right, I'm messaging people, fucking getting the song." We're like, "All right, cool."
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a bit early, but I'm glad we done it.
Yeah. How do you think like you kind of adapt to that kind of trial by fire, sink or swim kind of like let's just get going?
It's been the death of you sometimes. Sometimes we're like, why the fuck have we done this? We are not ready. But I think that's just the way you need to do it sometimes, because the way we see it, like if you sit on something, it's just not going to happen. So better put pressure on you rather than the alternative. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think there is like in your music, there's a real sense of like urgency, you know what I mean? A real sense of like,
thanks, man.
Trying to get a message across and trying to get shit out and express it. And I think like, again, I mean, that kind of fits the mood. Would you agree? Or?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it's just like a characteristic of us. But I feel like with music, it's important for like people to actually display their character and display their sort of attitude towards things through their music. And I'm glad that comes across in it, because we are chaotic and we are fucking really. We don't make our lives any easier with the decisions we make.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, when COVID happened, I mean, what did you guys do during that? What were the lockdowns like in Scotland? Could you do shit, or was it completely?
Nah, not at all, man. It's probably not like it was as restrictive as you guys by the end of it, but at the start, it was absolutely nothing. A lot of bands like fucking suffered, but we got like signed during lockdown. So we were quite lucky to that, because first of all, I lived with Eamon, the guitarist, during lockdown, so that led to a lot of like productive stuff. But we released a little live version of a song when restrictions were just like opening up, and then we released it. It was eye to eye, and then restrictions closed again.
Yeah.
But the guys at Marshall saw us, and just that relationship started brewing from there. So we had quite a lucky pandemic, I'd say.
And then actually you mentioned Marshall there. So how do you find now that, I believe you signed in 2021, is that correct?
Yeah.
So how do you find like being a kind of unsigned band for about 4 years and versus now being on a label for 2 years? How do you find that's changed for you guys?
I don't know, man. We're still skint as fucking work other jobs, so I don't know. It's really good to have a team behind you that like believe in what you're doing. That's like it kind of. I don't know. Maybe if we were still unsigned, I don't know if like things would be a bit more deflated. So it's really good to have people around you like being like, no, you are actually really good. Can you just keep going?
Yeah.
And like they're just very supportive. Like it's our booking agent and our label are the same team. Like which is like really not that common for bands. Like you can actually have all these people in the same room at one point, which we're really thankful for. And yeah, they're just very supportive. And we all just want the same thing, and it's very nice. And it's very nice to have that going forward. I'd much rather have that going forward than being unsigned.
Yeah,
but I'm still scared.
But then even like when it comes to say really dropping an album, like you know, I mean, obviously you guys have been dropping singles as an unsigned band for a while. Did you find any difference then when it came to like doing shit? Because actually, even before the album dropped, you were releasing singles with Marshall from the album beforehand. So did you notice any difference or?
Yeah, it's just a bit more professional. Like just a bit like they take to do that now, and like sort of just more press stuff like involved in it. We always were crap at uploading stuff. We'd always upload wrong mixes and stuff, so we don't do that anymore. So that's like that's probably the big takeaway I take from it. Fucking we don't fuck it up anymore.
Yeah. You guys obviously have had like a pretty roller coaster career already. I mean, it's still very young, but I mean, like you've done like sports lots with like Biffy, you've done you've done like South by Southwest, done like a bunch of stuff. At the moment, like what would you say is like the sort of highlights of your career then so far?
It's a toss up between our first show in America and Biffy, I would say. Just two of them. I feel like for a while I stopped like I was still getting nervous for shows. I feel like if I stopped getting nervous for shows, that'd be quite worrying. But I stopped like proper shiting myself. Like the first few shows, like when I didn't know what I was doing, I was shiting myself, like wanting to just run away.
Yep.
That came back in America and Biffy just because of how like just the size of the whole thing. Remember we were sound checking for Biffy, and it was this big tent that could fit 10,000 people. And we're like sound checking, fucking the space was that like big and open every time. What Paul, once he was sound checking the kick drum, you could just hear doo, 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 like the sound traveling. I'm like, oh, why are we doing this? This is like terrifying. That like both of them in America, just like we played to like just a full bar, and people were just like loving it. And then the full week we were there, people were like, Gallus. It was just like so I can't like I can't say one was bigger than or better than t'other. They were both like mind-boggling experiences.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to mention is actually it's kind of related to Biffy, I guess. Well, it's like one thing I like about your vocal singing is that I think a lot of time when the Scottish accent seems to disappear when people sing. I don't know why. It just seems
I know. Yeah.
But I like that. I think it adds a real distinct character. And actually, it's interesting you're mentioning the Streets. I think like they're a similar band where it's like the accent's a very prominent thing, like and it's very prominent in storytelling. I was wondering, was that a conscious decision or is that just kind of like how you sing?
No, I think a bit of both, man. When we started, I didn't really, I think, try and use them like put focus into the accent, and I just started thinking like you want yourself to be like relatable, and you want what you're saying to be relatable. You can't. It's not going to be relatable if you're fucking talking differently. Do you know what I mean? And I think some of the best Scottish bands are the ones that sing in their own accent. You can think like there's a band Ninth Wave, and Hayden's now in Last Boy as well. He sings with a natural Scottish accent. Storytelling's beautiful. Biffy, same thing. We Were Promised Jetpacks or another one. Like you just like listen to it, it just authenticates the story more. It's just the best way to do it. I would say.
Do you find going back to kind of your acting career, do you find that you're doing on top of singing, you're doing kind of a performance too? I mean, because like it is storytelling. I mean, at the end of the day, it's storytelling with a melody and a beat, really. Do you find that you're incorporating that into your performances and into your both live performance and studio performance? I mean,
that's like this main. I think that's the main thing I'm still like sort of doing. This is like the main sort of creative outlet that I have is the fact that I can incorporate stuff that I've learned over the years, because I wanted to be in it, do acting for ages, and then sort of fell in love with this when we kept moving. But I think because I could take the things that I love from acting onto this, like, and that was like the performance aspect of it. And it's important for me that that's always like a sort of staple of our songs, like sort of theatricality of the live shows, definitely, and just like the performance sort of aspect of our songs. Makes a better band for anyone if they take that into account.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely. Absolutely, but then also, I mean, do you find coming from an acting background, I mean, where you're playing characters now, to actually kind of exposing yourself on stage and your ideas and your own feelings and emotions too in your music, do you find that intimidating at first, or is it just stage performing for you? It's all the same?
I'd say, like, on stage, I'm still a very animated version of myself. I wouldn't say that's natural at all. If I was the way that I was on stage, I wouldn't have any friends. So I can still actually think, like, oh, there is a different version there, so that maybe fucking, like... Yeah. But it's just that highlight version of myself. It's still the same problems that I'm writing about and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's that much of a difference, to be honest. It's just what I like doing and what we like doing as a band, like going on stage. The similarities will always be there, but it's just good, isn't
it? Perfect. And then, I guess I'll just sort of ask this. So the album has been released for over a month now at this point. Great critical reception. People seem to be really liking it.
Yeah,
but like in a way, do you find, because like I think it's like really finely honed when I listen to it. Like it really feels like, you guys took your time, really found your sound, and kind of like, made sure you knew what it was you wanted to be as a band before you kind of release the album. Was that something that you were always working on, or it was just coincidental timing?
I'd say a bit of both, man. I think it was always going to be hard for us to be... No, it wasn't going to be hard to be cohesive, but because we wanted it to be as cohesive as we could, we did focus on that when we were writing more of the tracks that were going in. But that's really never been us. But that's never been us, like a cohesively sounding band. But we want it to be. But we want it to be us, and that's always going to be... I feel like that was the hardest task possible. But thank you very much for thinking that we have done that, because I didn't think we did. No, fucking... It can be solid. I don't really know how we done it. To be honest, I think we had main core points, core sort of like themes that are going to go into each track that hopefully like is our characteristics and it is us, and just hoped we could just do something different, but these characteristics are still in the song, so that's what makes it everything link, and hopefully that worked.
Well, I think also it has the album's also radiated with kind of that Scottish sense of humor too, and
you're
dealing with kind of... Sorry, good.
We're never good. It's another thing, that's one of the characteristics. We're a band that have never, ever, ever taken ourselves seriously, and I think just that sort of thematic work across the album like made our jobs a bit easier.
Yeah,
in terms of cohesiveness.
But then again, I mean, like you are talking about heavy subject matter on the album. So how do you find like how do you find the kind of appropriate tone from like actually trying to talk about certain issues that we should talk about, while also not being so humorous that you deflate the serious and stuff, if you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I genuinely think that's a Scottish attitude.
Yeah.
Probably a similar Irish attitude as well. Sort of like if something bad goes wrong in anyone's life, I think the first protocol is to make fun of it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I think that's like relatable in a sense. Obviously, you do need to like differentiate. Like you can't take piss out of everything bad that happens, or like, do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's just a certain attitude that I think people go forward with when they're like being quite internal with themselves. They're like, "Oh, I'm sad, but it's kind of funny, isn't it?"
Yeah.
I just think that's the attitude so many people have.
Yeah.
especially in Scotland.
Yeah, so now the album's out, you guys are signed on a label. It seems like a lot of things have been done for the band so far, but yeah, at the same time,
Yeah,
I mean, you guys are only like about 5 years old at this point, maybe six. What do you
yeah.
think like comes next? Like, what's the big things you want to hit yourselves?
We just want to do the same. We want to keep on doing this. We're traveling a lot. We're going to Europe. I'd say we have a bigger following in Europe than we do in England. So I quite like that, to be
Yeah,
honest. Like, I like going away. Just want to keep on hitting these places, release more music and do more. Like, just want to keep on. Just want to keep this going for as long as we possibly can, because I think I can speak for the boys, but it's like that's the happiest we are when we
yeah.
are just away doing these things, writing songs, playing all these beautiful places. Like, more of that, please.
So you guys prefer the live stuff than the studio stuff? Is yeah,
I
sorry.
think different members would say different things.
Yeah,
I would. I'm a performer, you know. I'm a live man at heart. But Eamon's like the music man. He would love to. He'd live in a studio if he could, I reckon.
yeah.
But yeah, it just depends who you ask and when you ask them, I think.
So, when you're turning around Europe and stuff, and you turn around other places, how do you feel that kind of like influences you, in terms of your writing or stuff, or does it even like? I mean, I think like when you see new places, it kind of influences your outlook in a
Do you
way.
know what? We're just in the start of like taking that into account. From being away, we're like it does because it is changing. It's changing us right now.
Yeah.
We're thinking of writing a song called Belgian Heat, which is
Okay.
a story that happened to us in Belgium. I don't know if well, I'm going to write it, but just it's a funny story. Just because all these funny things happen now, and
Yeah.
just these stories that you won't get when that happen back home, and we can't not write about them. I can't go into detail of them because some of
Yeah.
them are out of order. In that aspect, yeah, we are taking things creatively away with us.
Yeah. That's perfect. I guess one last thing I'd ask, and I don't know, maybe this is a bit of a heavy subject matter, I don't know, but as a touring act who wants to, who primarily seems to want to tour Europe, I mean, do you find like Brexit or anything like that to be a thing that's been hindering you, or has it not been an issue at all?
Um, I don't know how we can say this legally.
Yeah.
We haven't been stung yet, but I'm surprised that we haven't.
Okay.
Maybe we've been a bit sneaky about it. I don't know. No, it has been a bastard. No, like we have done it properly, and it is a bit of a hindrance. Like, there's been so many touring bands that kind of getting ferries and stuff, and
Yeah.
fucking like miss shows, and it's an absolute joke. But we've not been stung properly yet by having to cancel shows. Fingers crossed, we're going to Belgium this weekend, so fucking
Perfect.
hope that's this stays the same.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the show, man. And is there anything
Thank
else
you very
you'd
much.
like to add before we wrap up, or?
Just listen to this bloody album so we can stop working our other jobs.
Thanks very much for your time, man. I really
Cheers,
appreciate it.
man. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your day, man.
Yeah, you too, man. Catch you.
Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We hope you enjoyed and stay tuned for more.